Philip, JD. Yeah, Beavs, man, I feel like this transfer portal window for a school like Oregon State, we're live on YouTube too. What's going on? Getting a question about Oregon State real quick before I hop into this. But this transfer portal window that opened up this week, big for a school like Oregon State, because Oregon State's in that little window where, and schools on Oregon State's level all fall into this bucket where there's a lot of movement that can happen in the transfer portal because you're going to be, sorry, there's echo. You're going to be, you're going to be the top spot for like a bounce back from like a big time program because they're going to want, Oregon State is more prestigious than like Toledo, so to speak. So you get, or like Miami of Ohio. I spent a lot of time around Miami of Ohio in December. So like Oregon State gets priority over those MAC schools, but they also have the opportunity to like poach some of the lower level schools, right? Whether it's like an Eastern Washington type of guy. So those schools in the portal are always really intriguing to me versus like a USC in the portal. They're always going after the top transfers. It's like, hey, who's the best tackle in the market? Sweet. We're in the bidding market. There's 7 schools all trying to bid for the same guy. It's a little bit more cookie cutter. Ben on YouTube, what's up, man? Parker, what's going on? Thanks for coming back, Ben. Actually, that might be a new Ben. Ben, what up? Whose fault is NIL? Because the players should take the money and the schools have to pay to get a good team. The fault of NIL is the NCAA for not being proactive in the USC sanctions era, for not being proactive in 2010 and 2015, because there were many people on a mic in 2010 and through 2015 saying it is only a matter of time before players get paid. Only a matter of time. I literally remember I was a comm major at USC. I literally remember doing a paper, and it was like the common topic for a bunch of athletes to do papers on, of like why athletes should get paid. And it was like it was a good paper. It was a good thesis, but it was very cookie cutter. Like you could see it coming. So the NCAA it's the classic mistake companies use in business too, where you never think that you're going to get out innovated. You never think that, hey, this has worked for us for 3 decades. We don't need to kind of beat ourselves or compete against ourselves. Well, the best companies do that. They out innovate themselves. And for the NCAA, they weren't proactive with it. And so then it caught up with them, weren't able to make guardrails, lost tons of respect within the football coaching world. And now here we are. And I've listened to, Herb Street on the Pat McAfee show. I've listened to nuggets of like Joel Klatt and whatnot. And Pat McAfee asked Herb Street, like, hey, what's going to change this? What's ultimately going to change NIL? And everyone says, oh, I don't know. I think I do know, actually. And I feel pretty confident in it. It's going to take an outside entity that looks at college football specifically as a business opportunity. The example that I always use in my inner circles is like a Mark Cuban type of guy who says, there is so much chaos in college football, yet so much intrigue and so much business opportunity. That type of guy approaches the top 80 schools in college football and delivers a structure or a process that works for the top 80 schools, top 60 schools, top 40 schools. It makes me nervous because I think getting the top 30 on the same page is a lot easier than teams 40 through 70, and teams 40 through 70, there's a lot of pride in those fan bases. There's a lot of intrigue in those fan bases, but it's going to take, and this is why I kind of wish the Nico Iamaleava thing happened in season, which sounds crazy, but if the Nico thing happened in season and it wasn't on a random off-season week in April, if this happened middle of October, or dare I say before a college football playoff game, the uproar would have been crazy. And if the uproar was crazy, that's how you wake up the SEC and the Big Ten to actually spark real change. And that hasn't happened yet. We had the Matthew Sluka debate at UNLV back in like October. Now we have this Nico thing. There's more coming. Everyone's making Nico out to be the bad guy, or a lot of people are. Nico's not the bad guy. He just happens to be on a timetable where he was like the first big recruit coming out of high school to get a huge NIL deal and have that be a factor. And so then naturally 3 years later, he's the first kid in the saddle as an established starter that's then like backing out on his team. And this would have happened I think this would have happened whether it was Nico or Joe Jones. I think we're just in that time period where, you know, I, let me pause right there. I think there's a huge factor in the Nico situation that is going to get uncovered in the months ahead. Something doesn't add up. Why would you go to a UCLA for less money to a team UCLA that is middle of the road in the Big Ten versus Tennessee that has, a shot at the playoff? You can say it's because of the offense and whatnot. I don't really, I don't buy that. Just from a business sense, from a dollars and cents side, that doesn't make sense to me. I went a little rant there. I'll catch up on some questions. Drew, what's up, man? Kirby, what's going on? Am I part black? I'm not part black. Nico to UCLA confirmed. Just because of everything I'm reading, that I believe it's confirmed. Riker, what's up, man? Hope you're having a good day as well. Let's go, Max. What's your go-to taco time order? Not what you thought you were going to get asked today, what you were going to hear today, but the go-to order is it's been a minute. I haven't been back in the Northwest in a minute, but a number one beef, the soft burrito, that we get a side of tots or Mexi fries on the side. With each bite of the burrito, I'm a ketchup guy. Sometimes I'll dabble with the Taco Time hot sauce. And for those of you guys that have no idea what I'm talking about, Taco Time is the best kept secret in the fast food world, period. In the Northwest, it's fire. I'm in Southern California. That's supposed to be like best Mexican food in the U.S. That's an overrated take. It's a hot take. I'm not about that. Good Mexican food, but people make it out to be like, oh, the best thing, dude. Taco Time in the Northwest, fire. Way better than Taco Bell. Way better than Taco Bell. Period. And my wife's a huge Taco Bell person. We stopped at Taco Bell last Thursday night because she wanted a crunch wrap. But anyways, number one. Then I get a side crisp beef burrito as well. Every bite of the original burrito has a little thing of ketchup and a Mexi fry on top. Fire. And Taco Time is the first place. True OGs. True OGs know this. Taco Time is the first place that had the I call it training room ice, like the little, little nuggets, little pellets. That's training room ice. Taco Time was the first fast food place to have training room ice. Then Five Guys got it, at least in Washington, where I grew up. Five Guys was the next, and then now I feel like a lot of people have it. But that's the OG spot. What was it like being a part of Elite 11 at its peak? Gabe, thanks for the question, man. Elite 11, the best quarterback camp out there. It's funny, dude. I literally had a dinner last night with a buddy who was one of the volunteer receivers at my Elite 11 camp in Redondo in 2013. I'm working on a long form YouTube video on Elite 11. So if you're over there on TikTok or Instagram, check it out on YouTube. I'm posting a lot more long form there. And I'm interviewing the guy that's started or he's ran the Elite 11 for a little while recently, trying to tee up something for him. I know I'm going on a sidetrack and I'm not answering your question. I'm set to possibly speak at the Elite 11 this year in front of all the quarterbacks in July, which I'm super excited about. It's going to be about, this is gnarly to say, but like not being in their seats and not living up to expectations / the social media route and just kind of navigating that life and just life advice type of deal. But what was it like being part of its peak? It was its peak. And that era where ESPN bought the rights for Elite 11, it was literally on ESPN main channel. It was Elite 11 and the opening. Or I was the last year where it was two separate camps, but ESPN had the rights to both. It was legit, man. That camp is when I first knew. That's not the qualifier is when I first knew Jared Goff was elite. I was like, yo, this guy who only has a Cal and Boise State offer, like this dude can sling it. Yeah, he's skinny as hell. Yeah, he's a buck 85. And I was skinny. I was 205. But I was like, yeah, Jared Goff is the most quarterback in my class. And I'm not just saying that because of hindsight. I would have said that back in the day. Sure enough, he ended up starting as a true freshman and all that. But guys like Goff, I got to know decently well. I'm still in touch with like Luke Del Rio, Josh Dobbs was in my class, Santi Woolard, who didn't have the best college career necessarily, but he was like a rising guy then. It was sweet though. It was made for TV. It was as big as it got. It was cool competing with those guys, kind of sizing yourself up. Hey, I think I'm the best quarterback in the country. This is the pool of guys I'm competing with. It was cool. And our class was. It's funny. My class. So we had actually like 20 quarterbacks that are Elite 11. I actually think it was 24, and then it was like a made for TV 24. Trim it down to the top 11 and an MVP. The two most successful quarterbacks, you could say Goff, but the two most successful quarterbacks in my recruiting class, objectively, nowadays, are Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield. Those two guys did not make the Elite 11. So it's kind of funny looking back on. They took an extra big crop, and then the two guys that ended up being the best weren't even in weren't even in the weren't even in Elite 11. Chris, thanks for joining, man. Drew, what up? Caleb, what's going on? Played against you in 7-on-7. Skyline had Barrett as a coach. Yo, you're Bonnie Lake, right? You guys had the first 7-on-7 camp of the year. That's good memories, man. That's the first time that I was like the starter on my team at the Bonnie Lake 7-on-7. So that's good memories, man. What's up? There we go. Bonnie Lake, Coach Barrett, little defensive coordinator action. That's good memories. Was Kenny Pickett my backup at Pitt? Kenny Pickett, the homie, man, he was third string technically. Ben DiNucci, another NFL starter, he was my backup. I got benched for DiNucci uh, Oklahoma State game, week 3. He started Georgia Tech. I got put back in. I started week 5, had success, and then I started week 6. I got hurt. DiNucci went in there. Then Kenny came in. It's funny. I've made a video on this. It's one of the best TikToks and one of the most successful TikToks performance-wise on both TikTok and on YouTube is every single quarterback that I've been in a quarterback or that I was in a quarterback competition with was an NFL starter. Sam Darnold, Cody Kessler, Ben DiNucci, Kenny Pickett. Every single one of them. Shout out Max Whittick for the USC people. Max Whittick had the strongest arm I've ever seen in person. He played in the NFL, but technically he didn't win that competition, so kind of makes for a better story. Eli, what's up, man? Johan, back in the saddle. Love the consistent viewers. Johan, what's up, man? Thanks for coming back. Thoughts on Sac State? I'm gearing up to post a video. Maybe I'll post it today. It's in the queue. It's already done. Sac State's got the swaggiest coaches in the country. The combination of men's basketball and football, Sac State, man. You get the I saw last week they have the Go-Go branded hats, snapbacks. Sick. Love that. I called UNLV's game last year. Super impressed with Brennan Marion and just that whole offensive identity. I think it's so good for college football. I think it's so good in the transfer portal world, and I'm excited to see what they do. It's funny. I went to the Final Four last week. I was doing something with Priceline. Some of you guys may have seen it, and I was on the brand deal with Shakir O'Neal. Yeah, and he just transferred to Sac State. So we were talking about that with just Mike Bibby and whatnot. And Sac State, man, making moves out there in the Mountain West. Asked a little early, Juani boy, how was it throwing the rock to Adoree Jackson in practice? Well, he played both ways, so throwing the rock to him when he was a DB was not fun. He undercut a few out routes that I had. But he's the man. Adoree's the homie, man. Adoree, I got nothing but good things to say about him, just as a dude, as a player. It was tough throwing to Adoree, only in the sense that his reps were so precious. So, like, when he would get there in practice, he had, like, 10 at most, 5 offensive practice reps. Or like, hey, here's this one play. We're dialing up for Adoree. We're going to call it at this point in the game. And if you like underthrew it or overthrew it, it was like the biggest buzzkill to practice because it's like, yo, Adoree's reps are so precious. Like, you can't mess it up. You can't screw it up. And so I always and shit. Maybe that's why I didn't have the high level success I should have at SC. Is I was probably overthinking that. But no, Adoree is the man. Super talented. he also did he was doing both ways. He was playing track. It was chaos when Adoree was in there, but super cool. And you guys will like this. And I'm working on something. I'll include this actually. It's a good reminder. Thanks for the question. I'm working on a what was it like playing for Sark video. And again, if you're on TikTok, check it out over there on YouTube. But Sark had in his call sheet, I think it was Sark, right? Or was Helton? No, it was Sark. He had a specific section in his call sheet that it was like get Adoree the ball or like Adoree plays. And it was like one corner of his call sheet that we had like 15 dialed up plays for Adoree because people forget on it or forget about it. Like when you have a unique weapon like that and you're trying to monitor reps, it'd be really interesting to see how this plays out with Travis Hunter or like how it played out with Travis Hunter at Colorado. Like they only know it's not as simple as just rolling out the ball and say, hey, call play number one. Like you have to have the right personnel group. You have to have, hey, this pass play is meant for second and long, not necessarily third and short. So the scenario's got to align. And so there's very specific times where we're getting Adoree the ball or like this play call comes into play. For Travis, he had more reps on offense than Adoree did. So I would imagine the volume of plays he could get to was more. But interesting nonetheless. Karab, what's up, man? Good to see you again. How was Sam Darnold for the Hawks? Love it. Love it. Did a full-on YouTube video on that. I think it was a great move for both sides. I'm pumped that Darnold cashed in, and no matter how things shake out, he made life-changing money. Happy for him. I think it's a great move. I'm not sitting here saying, hey, Darnold's going to be the best quarterback in the NFL next year, but I think from a value standpoint for the Hawks, it made tons of sense. And one thing that I think people are underestimating with Darnold is the past 4 or 5 years from inside of him, ever since the Jets, even at the Jets, he's never had the luxury of settling in as an NFL starter. Now he can settle in as an NFL starter. No one's debating, hey, early on in his career, is he going to work out? Is he going to carry the Jets? Oh, he's a bust. And then Panthers and Niners and Vikings, he's having to prove himself every single game. He goes to the Seahawks, yes, it's a new organization, but he's no longer like, hey, is it going to work out? No, he's no longer a bust. There's none of that. And so I think there's more ceiling that Darnold can tap into than people might realize, even though he is, 28? That dude's a baller. It would not surprise me if even with Kevin O'Connell not being his play caller, even if he's got a whole nother peak that he can go to. What are your thoughts on Dave Doeren as a coach and as a whole in his 13th or 14th season as a head coach? Dave Doeren, NC State's head coach. First off, he deserves a ton of credit. He's the third longest tenure head coach in college football. There's Kyle Whittingham at Utah. There's Gundy at Oklahoma State. Wake Forest, Dave Clawson has since retired, so he's not in there. Doran's up there. So first off, deserves a ton of credit. I think NC State's found themselves in this awkward middling zone where they're not the top tier of the ACC, and they've had some successful seasons, and they're kind of in this no man's land. And I know NC State fans are kind of divided on it. Dave Doeren, I think I'm hesitant to see how his style adapts to the transfer portal world. I think he's much more of a blunt, tell you how it is, tell it to you straight. Much more of, again, Dave Clawson style at Wake Forest. That's the recipe that worked when you could develop guys and could have guys in your system for 3 or 4 years. The transfer portal, guys want money. You got to recruit. You got to be dynamic, and that is, I think, his vulnerability as a coach. And I'm intrigued to see how it plays out. But for me, NC State's fine NIL wise. I haven't read up on how it's changed in this past offseason. But if they didn't have the core, if Grayson McCall didn't get injured last year, and things were a little bit more consistent, NC State's got some money to compete. I'm not saying they're Oregon. I'm not saying they're Ole Miss. I'm not saying they're UCLA or USC. But they can do some things. I think this will be a huge year for Doeren, obviously. Potentially fork in the road type of year. Salas, what's up, man? Thanks for joining. Let me check TikTok real quick. Zach, what's up, dude? Who's the best player you ever played with or against in all of your football career? This is an easy answer. The best player that I played with is Big Cat, Leonard Williams, now on the Seahawks, Pro Bowler last year at, 31, 30 years old. Leonard was a stud. He was like, there were times during practice where we would have to sit him out on practice because when we would go one on one and we were trying to like break in a new guard, that Leonard Williams would just take over practice. He's a great dude. Nothing but good things to say about him. But Leonard Williams is the best player that I played with for sure. Sonny, what's up, man? Scott, what up? Kira, where's Vic? Where is Vic? Kira, she's getting her hair dyed this morning. So keep an eye out on the stories. There might be something there. Vic's my wife. For those of you guys that don't know that, especially this year. Back to Eli, Tony Gibson heading to Marshall. Yep, fresh set of coordinators. Yeah, I need to look into their portal class and check all that out. But love the comment. Thanks for hanging. Silas, what are your thoughts on Bryce Young and the Panthers? Will he be Russell Wilson clone next year? Similar lights out. I just have a ton of respect for Bryce Young. It's another Silas. Thanks for the reminder. I want to do a video on Bryce Young. I think his transformation that he had last year is so unique. You never see quarterbacks in the same year get benched and then come back. Like the mental strain with that. You might see a veteran quarterback who's just like, hey, at this point, I'm playing with house money. But you never see a young quarterback with his expectations. From my seat, it's the first time that he's like failed in his quarterback career. I met Bryce Young when he was a ninth grader. I would train. I said this on Tuesday, but I would train at Cathedral High School, and I've known Bryce from afar. I don't know him well, but I've like observed the trajectory of his career. But to respond after getting benched and people calling you a bust and people saying it's over for you kind of thing, I have tons of respect. And that's a big deal in terms of like when you look at his trajectory for the next 10, 15 years, the fact that he responded in 2024 gives me hope, a lot of hope if I was a Panthers fan moving forward. But year two with Canales, I think Panther fans have every reason to think that they're going to take the next step. That was a bad roster last year, so they still have a lot of work to do. But I still think keeping the hope with Bryce Young is smart. Is Jaden Daniels better than CJ Stroud? We'll see, man. That whole sophomore slump is real. I think when you start getting in the expectations, like being high and people are expecting you to be top 5 quarterback in the NFL, you saw it with CJ last year. He was good, don't get me wrong. But if we're being honest, the temperament on CJ has calmed compared to where it was last year. Part of me thinks that's just sports human nature. It wouldn't surprise me if that happens to Jaden Daniels. Again, not saying he's bad, not saying he's going to regress, but he was the talk of every sports show last fall. It wouldn't surprise me if he comes back down to earth just a little bit. But I think Jaden's legs are more dynamic than CJ. So right now, if I had to start a franchise, I'm taking Jaden Daniels, which is cool. A little fun story for you guys. The very first paid media opportunity that I ever had in my career was in February of 2019. I was filling in hosting SiriusXM Pac-12 radio, and it was right when Jaden Daniels, it was like signing day, and Jaden Daniels had just signed with ASU. So I remember doing like a whole 30-minute segment on Herm Edwards and all the recruiting success that they're having, and Jaden Daniels, the trajectory that he's going to be on, and top West Coast quarterback goes to ASU. And so it's Jaden Daniels, no matter how his career shakes out, will always have an interesting spot in my heart because he's like the first guy that I ever got paid to break down his career. And I did it when he was 18. And now look at where he's at. So just kind of cool little nugget right there. Scott, what's up, man? Thanks for joining. Hope be more. Thanks for joining YouTube. Eli, Ness. Thanks for love it. Ness. Do you think Kyle McCord could be an NFL starter in the future? I do. I've been on the Kyle McCord train since I'm going to say I started the Kyle McCord train because I made a video in October, November, being like, yo, don't be surprised when this dude is a top 5 NFL quarterback. And I feel like that's not a hot take anymore. Top 5 NFL draft quarterback this year, not Mahomes, Josh Allen, all that. But I said back in October, I was like, hey, don't be surprised when he is a top 5 quarterback taken in the 2025 NFL draft. That doesn't feel like a scorching hot take now. I see Colin Cowherd's on that take. And it's not that I'm like some what I had early access to Kyle McCord because I called 3 or 4 of his games, and I've said this, and the OGs here will know that I've said this analogy a few times, but Syracuse last year won double-digit games, and they just rolled the ball out and said, "Kyle McCord, go win it for us." Like, straight up. They were throwing the rock 50 times a game. Um, their running back, LaQuint Allen's a baller, which, by the way, the draft hardos here, look at LaQuint Allen. And like he he's so dynamic out of the backfield too. You get him with like an Andy Reid or like some creative play caller. Don't sleep on LaQuint Allen. But anyways, super high on Kyle McCord, relatively speaking. Would not surprise me if he goes in like the second round, late in the second round. One team falls in love with him. And again, similar to that, Jaden Daniels and the grit that it takes to you know, people were not pumped on him when he left ASU. You land at LSU, you kind of this is your last shot, makes the most of it. Guy like Bryce Young gets put through the ringer. Media's getting on him. He responds. Kyle McCord to have to leave Ohio State after, and I saw the little Gruden QB camp clip yesterday, to leave Ohio State after a successful season, one loss team, to then bet on yourself, go to Syracuse. And I've been told from inside sources that he took less money to go to Syracuse and he could have gone to a bigger program with more money, but he wanted to go to Syracuse. I think because, well, his offensive coordinator, he knew since he was a little kid. So there was like a security, I think, there. And I also think he knew that going to Syracuse, I'm going to get every chance to have the keys and drive this car. And that's exactly what he did last season. No more of no more like game manager energy. So I don't think the adjustment for him will be as extreme going to the NFL. And I'd be excited if your team takes Kyle McCord, especially if we start talking fourth, fifth round, your team takes Kyle McCord. I'm a big believer in that. Megan, what's going on? Nick, what's going on? Chronicles favorite Heisman front runner next year. I like the South Carolina kid. I like the South Carolina kid, Lenora Sellers. That's an interesting one. Um, Dante Moore at Oregon is really interesting for me. I think I'm higher on him than most. I think Oregon's going to be in the conversation no matter what. And if you just look at like a value right now as a guy who isn't a known starter, that one's interesting to me. But if I had to put money on it right now, not even like best odds, it's got to be Arch Manning, right? And with Texas, with Sark, with Arch, just his skill set, but also from a stat standpoint, if it ends up being a Heisman race, it's all about stats. Arch and his legs, if he gets like a sneaky 8 rushing touchdowns and like sneaky 600-700 yards rushing, which he could do, that could be the differentiating factor if it comes down to it. So Arch is probably my leader. Oh, wait, it all sparked the Red River rivalry. I think Oklahoma has a long way to go, but I am super high on John Mateer. John Mateer is let me be careful here. John Mateer is a no questions asked top 10 returning quarterback in college football. John Mateer is a top 5. In case this gets clipped. John Mateer is a top 5 returning quarterback in college football. I might even put him in top 3. That dude is a baller. If you don't believe me or you're like, Max, I've been hearing about this guy, the Washington State transfer, now at Oklahoma, like, Max, what's the deal there? Turn on the Apple Cup, Washington State versus Washington, his, like, third start ever. You'll see some big-time timing throws. You'll see throws on the right hash, left sideline. You'll see scrambling runs, him getting creative. Like, John Mateer's a baller. Romardo, you look like Jared Goff. We spent 5 minutes talking about Goff earlier on. If you're just hopping in here, favorite QB in the draft, man. I'm following the trap of all analysts. I was higher. Shador was my number 1 quarterback when I started this process, and then now because I'm the outlier there, I start second guessing myself. And I came from the Pac-12 network. I called Cam Ward's games 3 years ago. I've seen the progression. I'm a believer in Cam Ward. I'm higher on Shador than most. Shador is still my number 1 quarterback. Gosh, I don't like that take though. It's 1A. It's tight for me. I think Shador. I know he doesn't have the big time attribute, but that dude is tough as nails. Anticipation is part of his DNA. He's had the pressure and the spotlight on him his entire life. He's had success at 2 different schools, different play callers. He's steady. And again, that same Kyle McCord comment that I made, Colorado every single week rolled out the ball and said, "Shoutout, you have to play lights out for us to contend at a high level." Not every quarterback you can say that. You can say that about Cam Ward. I'm good there. But a lot of these top quarterbacks, you can't say that. Jalen Milroe, I think a lot of Alabama's play calling last year was to protect the fact that he wasn't necessarily developed as a pocket passer. I wish Jalen Milroe went back to school. I think Quinn Ewers um, wasn't asked to, carry the load for his team to ultimately win those games. Quinn's an interesting one to me too, though, because the injuries last year, not insignificant. The pressure, the headlines of Arch being behind him and having to deal with that whole situation is not easy. If I think the adjustment jumping from college to NFL for a guy like Quinn Ewers, it will be less pressure for Quinn Ewers going from college to the NFL. I think that's a fact. I think that could allow him to play better. That's not necessarily the case for a guy like Cam Ward. Cam Ward going to the Titans, pick one, gear up, gear up. Tell us a fun student story about you being at the old school USC Village movie theater, 32nd Street Market, etc. Love it. There we go. For people that don't know, USC before they had a remodel and they like bought land right across that big what street is that? I forget even what street that is. They had a janky old like grocery store right across the street from where they would house the football players. What's my story there? The chicken fajita Subway sandwich at the Subway connected to the Bank of America in the village was my go-to. I would hammer. So we started with taco time. Now we're at Subway. The chicken fajita sub with extra sauce on the flatbread was bomb. I also remember opening up my first bank account ever at that Bank of America in that University Village. And my first check, you guys will love this. My first check, first stipend check at USC. This was like increased. This was like better than the years before. Was $282 that I cashed as a 5-star number 1 quarterback freshman at USC versus now we get Nico Iamaleava backing out because he's getting paid $2 million, not $4 million. Versus Nico had a better career than me. I know. But $282, and I was hyped. I was like, yo, let me get a pair of shoes. I can get some new clothes. I was fine money wise, but like I was juiced on that. So that's 2 stories. And then you OGs that are still hanging out here, that's where we would make our alcohol runs at the Superior. Not runs like not stealing, but we would make moves, and that Superior that was in the University Village is where we would get our Bud Light and Jack Daniels Tennessee Honey. I was like, what we were drinking that, and then what a combo. We had Bud Light, Jack Daniels Tennessee Honey, and then my buddy was big onto Grey Goose, so he would like splurge and have Grey Goose. So fun times. Then my roommates were big Green Apple Ciroc guys. So you're getting it all here. Who was someone you thought would make it big in the NFL but didn't? I mean, my answer 12 months ago would have been Sam Darnold. Sam was an absolute baller, and I've been on record, check the content. I was like, hey, it's only a matter of time before he flips not he flips the switch, but the things align for him to ultimately have success. I mean, the most impressive receiver. Let me make sure. Yeah, dude, the most impressive receiver I ever played with was Marquise Lee. That dude in and out of breaks. That dude on a 5-yard out route. Good luck to that corner. On a 10-yard out route, you get Marquise in and out of cuts. That dude was special. And I know Marquise, made the NFL, so he did make it. Don't get me wrong. But Marquise, dude, and I played with big time guys, right? But Marquise was different. Another good dude too. You guys are all asking me about Marquise, Adoree Jackson, Leonard Williams. Those dudes are good dudes. Who else though? Let me give you a more of a dark horse name. Guys that were real good. I mean, I wish I had. It's sad. I was texting with him last night, but Cam Smith was one of the best linebackers I ever played with. He didn't make it because he got hurt. So let's just be clear there. But Cam was an absolute stud. I want to give you guys a good answer. Who else? It's a good question. Oh, I remember you guys. This is a good story. I remember being on the headset in our spring game, my true freshman year. Lane Kiffin was calling plays, and Justin Davis, running back, USC, my class. I remember Justin had like a spin move juke as a 17-year-old high school senior playing in the spring game, like a spring practice. And I remember, and it was a sick run. It was a physical run, juke, spin, the whole deal. I remember Lane Kiffin being on the headset and being like, I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was words of like, look out, there's the next Reggie. Or like, hey, the next Reggie Bush, we could be looking at it, or like something along those lines. And Justin Davis had a great career at USC. Don't get me wrong, but like I remember that comment. JD was an absolute baller, and my gut is a lot of you guys listen to this kind of forget about Justin Davis. Again, he had a great college career, but like he's a guy that sticks out of like people talking about him as the peak. And I don't know if necessarily football fans remember that, but JD, good dude, great dude. What's up, JD? If you see this, Johan, what you got? What was the most complicated offense you ever had to learn? Lane Kiffin's my true freshman year. Goodness gracious, I remember that's before he pivoted to the spread no huddle situation. Sentence long plays where you're telling every receiver what to do. It was a formation, a shift, a motion, and then you're telling all the routes to the player, to each player. And then, when we would have to do snaps under center, and if you fumbled a snap, you had to run around a lap. So you're trying to, as a young quarterback, learn the offense. Oh, by the way, you have to say the play in the huddle, which that was like the hardest part, even more so than learning the offense. And then you got to go in, and it took me a while to get used to taking snaps under center, which hey, people sleep on that. I get in this debate all the time with people on my couch, and then literally on air with my play-by-play guy, Tom Brenneman. Shout out Tom. But when people say, "Hey, I don't get why the coach is not having them go under center on 4th and 1," or "I don't get why they're having them go under center on short yardage situations," it is much more difficult to take a snap from under center than people realize. I'm not saying it's rocket science. I'm not saying it's hard per se, but this idea that it's just a given to hey, take a snap under center, bro. You got a 300-pound dude literally 12 inches away from a center that's shaking in his boots, that's trying to snap and get off the ball. If he short arms that snap, and oh by the way, if he's got like a bony ass, or if he's sweating all day and you've been playing in 90-degree heat, or if it's raining and it's like wet, taking a snap from under center is not a given, which again is why the tush push is honestly pretty impressive. But again, I'm not saying it's something you can't practice. I'm not saying it's hard per se, but it's not a given. Why did I say that? I forget why I said that, but who asked me that? Anyways, yeah, that's hardest offense I had to learn. Yeah, Lane Kiffin's freshman year, and I think that's why Kiffin's pivoted to I made a YouTube video on this. So if you're hanging on TikTok, over on YouTube, I made a video about it. Actually did well of how Lane Kiffin's career has evolved. He retweeted it. Kiff retweeted it himself, which I was hyped on. That's how you know when you make a video and the actual subject of the video retweets it. That's how you know you're doing it. Kiff retweeted it, and it was basically about like when I was a high school recruit. Kiff was like the golden boy of like carrying the torch of pro style offense to the next era of football. And he pivoted. He's now a spread, wide spacing, no huddle guy. And like that's what he's known for. People sleep on how significant that pivot is. Bianca, what's up? Zach, what's up? JJ, what up? Are you high on Bama this year? I don't know a lot about their quarterback situation. I got to dive into Ty Simpson's situation. So I don't know. I'm a believer in Kalen DeBoer. I'm a believer in gosh, what's the OC's name right now? Man, I'm blanking on his name right now. Gosh, it's gonna bother me. What's his name? Anyways, I'm a believer on him in him. I thought what he did with Michael Penix 2 years ago was, gosh, it's gonna bother me. Is big time. Someone tell me who's Bama's OC right now? I just Ryan Grubb. Thank you. Thank you. Uh, Big believer in Grubb. I know Seahawks fans, if I got some Seattle people in here, which I always do, Seahawks fans aren't pumped on Grubb necessarily. UW fans, which there's some crossover there. He got you guys to a natty. But Grubb back at Bama, I'd be excited about. But we'll see. I need to look into that. Jake, what's up, man? Carson, what up? Thoughts on Brady Cook from Mizzou? I like him. I think the hype for him as value in late rounds is warranted, but he to me is not in the group of the Kyle McCord, Quinn Ewers. I'm not as high on Jalen Milrow. I've talked about that, but Jalen Milrow is such a good athlete. At a certain point, if it starts getting into the fourth or fifth round, the upside with a guy like Milrow, especially if he gets in the right situation, is too great to pass up. I made the comp of what's the guy? Dude, my memory is faulting me right now. Who's the Saints former Taysom Hill? I made the argument. People thought I was crazy of Milrow is Taysom Hill on steroids. Can you imagine Jalen Milrow in the right system if he was able to play like if Jalen Milrow, third round? Here's a scenario for you guys. Here's hot take scenario for you guys. Jalen Milrow, third round. The Chiefs are on the clock. You're Andy Reid sitting in there. You've already got two offensive linemen. We're good there. Defense is in a good spot. Maybe if it's fourth round, and Jalen Milrow gets on the clock with all the creative stuff the Chiefs get Jalen Milrow in my system. Andy Reid's familiar in his career of having to develop quarterbacks when he had Brett Favre and Matt Hasselbeck and multiple guys that were like NFL starting quarterbacks. So maybe he's not afraid of that. You try to develop Jalen behind a Patrick Mahomes. And then, oh, by the way, use him in 15 plays a game in a little package with all the creative wrinkles that they could do with, Jalen as like a H-back, running back type of dynamic. Like, this is not just, hey, this dude's dual threat. This dude is powerful, dynamic, fast. Like, here's a different way to word it. That's a fun scenario to walk through. But I think it's irresponsible if you are a GM right now who likes Jalen Milrow. I think it's irresponsible to not entertain the fact that he could bring your team value in 2025, not at a quarterback position. I'll leave it there. What's a crazy story from you coming out of high school and being a top recruit? Where my mind goes right away is, so I went to the opening. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna say the guy's name because I don't know if he's ever said this and I can't get in trouble, and that sucks. I'm so sorry. It's such a lead on and like, dude, sick, man. My bad. A linebacker that you guys would know if you're a football fan. A linebacker that had success in college, success in the NFL. Went to the opening, had the room like a couple doors down from me. The opening was like the big camp from back in the day when it was all over ESPN and whatnot. And you guys can look it up now. He got kicked out of the camp for a couple different things, but he like walked into his hotel room and there was a bag of money right there on the coffee table situation, and he was between two different schools. May or may not have been an SEC country, and just a lot of cash, bag of money. I don't think he got kicked out because of that, but as like a dude that went to upper middle class public school, like I never was offered a cent when I was recruiting. Like that was wild. I was like, this is crazy. What am I doing wrong? I gotta get some under the table money. Not really. I was too probably, straight arrow for that back in the day. But that's a good story. Another fun story from the opening is Alvin Kamara was my running back. So we would do swing passes and little Texas routes coming out of the backfield. So that's always funny. And a lot of those guys, like Kamara was, dude, back then Kamara was like the fourth Alabama running back recruit. So then now he's one of the best running backs of my generation. Good for him. And like, imagine that. Alvin Kamara as a 7-on-7 weapon coming out of high school. There might not be a better running back made for 7-on-7 than Alvin Kamara. Like Derrick Henry was at that camp. Leonard Fournette was the only junior at that camp, still bald, just rocking the bald, which I freaking respect. Leonard Fournette. But Alvin Kamara, dude was a beast. Man of man of few words. Um, who would you like to see the Steelers grab at 21? Is the cop out answer Jackson Dart? Jackson Dart, get him there, get him there. Who else? Yeah, I'm going Jackson Dart there. Who was someone who was in the same high school class as you that didn't look real? I mean, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry and OJ Howard were freaking crazy. OJ Howard, tight end for Bama. That was like different. Derrick Henry, dude. That guy was 6'4", 230 as a high schooler. And it was like this dude's about to play running back. What are we doing here? It's amazing. Abraham, what's up, man? Let's pop over to YouTube. Thanks for checking out over there. Calvin, Johan, Nez, appreciate you guys. Let me know if you have any questions over there on YouTube. It's fun hanging, man. I'm working on the golf swing. Got a big round tomorrow. Big golf round tomorrow. Playing at the Bridges in San Diego. Phenomenal course. Phenomenal. I'm hyped. So we're working. Our handicap's an 11.1. So we cash in a good couple rounds together. Start getting that into the single digits, making moves. Keep an eye on that too. I got invited. Thanks to you guys for hanging out. I got invited to the U.S. Open Creator Day happening next month. I am like the bottom of the barrel creator that got invited. It's like a lot of the big golf YouTubers and whatnot, and we play in like a foursome. And so maybe I'll make it into some of their content. So if you're watching the football stuff here, and then pair up with some of the golf stuff too, that'll be fun. We're playing Oakmont. Got to be dialed off the tee. Oakmont's like what? Literally one of the top 5 hardest courses in the world, in the country. So we're getting that right. Nico has too many red flags. I started with Nico. Just quick little nugget on that, not to repeat everything, but I just think there's a huge piece to the story that is not that we have not uncovered. It just doesn't make sense. Why would you leave Tennessee on paper, if you believe everything you read, getting paid $2 million, $2.5 million, whatever it is, a team that has a chance at a playoff spot, to then leave for less money at a worse team? That doesn't make business sense. That doesn't make psychological sense. So I think there's something off there. And I'm just going to speculate here, but did he not get a payment that he was supposed to get? I've never heard anyone talk about how was his money paid out, right? He came out of high school and it was, hey, Tennessee is giving him $10 million a year. Well, if you do the math for that, it's either $2.5 million for 4 years or what, 3.33 for the 3 years he's in college. If you assume that he's going to jump for the NFL, we don't know if that $10 million was paid front loaded, back loaded. If he already has it in his pocket, let's say he was paid $10 million over the past 2 years and he's not due any more money. Business is business, man. I can't totally blame him for assuming, let's just say, assuming he has that money in his pocket 2 years ago. I can't blame him for trying to renegotiate. If he's looking over there at Carson Beck with an elbow injury getting $4 million, did some other school promise him the bag and like didn't deliver? I think there's a piece that we're missing because it doesn't add up. And one thing a common thing is like, oh, Nico's not good enough to get paid this amount of money. That's exactly, to take the pro Nico stance here, that's exactly why he should be renegotiated. Because if you don't think he's good enough to ultimately be that NFL quarterback, well, then now's his window to get that bread. Now's his window to negotiate, where he is a top 10 college quarterback returning right now. He might be 8, 9, 10. We can debate that. But right now is when you have some leverage on your side to get that. So I just think we're missing something there. It just doesn't align to me. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Mike, what's up, man? Chris, what up? Devin Dampier at Utah. Carson, I got nothing. I got to dive into that. I don't want to BS with you. I'm not sure. In your career, what was the moment it hit you that you may not be a Pro Bowl NFL QB? It's a good question, man. Yeah, it comes in stages because when you're in the saddle and when I was playing college, it was always like, just get back up, just get back up. Like even when I got benched at USC, I got benched at USC in September. Yeah, September. But the May before that, I had my head coach look me dead in the eye and say, and Darnold was right next to me. It was Clay had our Helton had our end of spring meeting together. He looked us dead in the eye and says, I have 2 NFL starting quarterbacks in this room, which is a great problem to have, but only one of you guys can start. So in my mind, that's the story that I'm telling myself of, it's just a matter of stringing a few games together. I've told this story before too. Like when I got to Pitt, that fall camp, I had one of the position coaches tell me like, hey, that's one of the best fall camps that I've that's one of the best weeks I've seen since I've been here. And we've had some NFL quarterbacks. So, like you hear nuggets and stories along the way that like you keep the belief. And I had the belief, and I had trust in what my abilities were. But when I got hurt my senior year at Pitt, right shoulder injury for a right throwing quarterback, in your gut, you kind of tell yourself, get back up, respond, and all that. But I think that's when I knew, like, yeah, the odds are like really stacked up against me because I don't have good college film. I got a fucked up shoulder. Like, this is going to be tough. And then the throw that I knew it was done for me was when I had a tryout with the Steelers in December of 2019, right before Christmas, 2018. 2018, right before Christmas. They asked me to throw a 20-yard comeback on the right hash of the Art Rooney Center where the Steelers train. And I like got it there, but it was not sharp. And I got out of there. I had a tryout with the Commanders the next 2 days, and my arm was cooked. I was like, yeah, my arm is feeling it. 18 months after the injury, I'm in trouble here. My days are numbered. I think that's the end of the road. And unfortunately, nowadays, I still can't throw the way, and I hate saying this because it makes it sound like, blaming the injury and all that, but I still can't throw. I can throw in like the backyard, like at a 4th of July or something, but I can't throw a 7-on-7 camp right now, which sucks, but that's life. Do I like the Dodgers? I'll go to a game, but I'm not a huge baseball guy. Are the Steelers the Chicago Bulls of the NBA and vice versa, with their constant mediocrity and playoff flameouts? One sec, TikTok's making sure I'm still on here. Unable to verify. Hang with me one sec. What the heck? 2 objects that are the same shape. It's making sure I'm not a robot. There we go. We're back on. One sec. Steelers. I don't like that comp. JB over there on YouTube, TikTok. Check me out on YouTube over there. But the Bulls have not had. The Steelers are making the playoffs. Mike Tomlin's getting those guys to the playoffs. I think there could be an argument to be made that like, hey, Mike Tomlin almost wish he tanked for a year to try to find that quarterback so that he's not in this middling zone. But the Steelers have been more successful than the Chicago Bulls over the past decade. I'm also a huge LeBron guy. I just took it down. So the Bulls, man, they could have had a different window if LeBron wasn't there. Just saying. And if D Rose didn't get hurt, so I think the Steelers have had more success there. What was the best defensive player you played against not on your teams? That's funny. The guy that sticks out to me is, who was that safety? Marcus Allen? Not that Marcus Allen, but the Penn State safety, number 2. He gave us so much trouble when we started at Penn State. He's one guy. Who's a better answer? Who is a better answer? I mean, Reuben Foster at Alabama as a middle linebacker going sideline to sideline. That was crazy. Big fan of your wife content. Avery, thank you. Appreciate it. Fun. Love it. Good food in LA. It's funny. I was just talking about Mexican food in LA. I'll come back to that. But I guess Reuben Foster, he's the name that sticks out. DeForest Buckner at Oregon. That dude was ginormous. We went up to Autzen and had Eric Armstead and DeForest Buckner as the 2 defensive tackles. That was big time. Walk on red shirt. What up? What's going on? Dark horse for next college football season. I like this. Let me give you a Dark horse for next college football season, the Washington Huskies. Check it out. I haven't seen the movement that's happened for them in the portal, so if I'm missing a huge departure, take that with a grain of salt. But Damon Williams, UW fans know, like it's like a little secret. Like don't say anything about Damon because who knows, maybe next year they're not gonna be able to afford him. But I think the fact that Jed felt the need to trade off quarterbacks last year showed how much belief they had in Damon Williams. I thought it was a super young roster last year. The classic year two jump that a new head coach can make, Jed Fish in year two. I thought what they did last year after having a roster that got decimated after the national championship run with Michael Penix was impressive and better than I thought. So don't sleep on the dogs up there in the Northwest. Nino DJ here. Yo, let's go, boy. What's up? Good to meet you. It's funny if you just hopped on. The Nino's the college bar at USC. I'm not gonna make myself out to sound like a degenerate, but we had some good nights there. We were responsible. I took care of business. We were working our asses off. Don't get me wrong. I took care of business in school and whatnot. But the old days of AMF or there was like Monday night 2-for-1 Dirty Shirley. That was not a weekly occurrence for me, but I may have done that once, probably to like impress a girl or something. Actually, funny enough, Avery, if you're still on this channel, I remember buying my wife a Long Island iced tea. At the time, she was just the girl I had a crush on, but a Long Island iced tea at the Nino. She was hanging in the corner stair setup, and that was like the icebreaker. As like I went over and I thought I was sick, like giving her like a Long Island iced tea drink. She probably got drinks from a lot of guys that night. But anyways, had a crush on her then. Always got love for the Nino, man. Always got love. I heard it's like Greek row and it's like a different vibe nowadays. I don't know. The whole campus is different now. That's funny though. Donovan, what's up, dude? Priest, have you ever listened to the new Theo Von Lane Kiffin podcast? I have not. Do I need to do that? That sounds like some good content right there. Theo Von Lane Kiffin. Coach Thorson, what up? Coach Thorson, the goat. Oh, I need to text back Bartell. That reminds me. Love that. I want to know who that is. Is that a player? Love Thorson, man. The OG signaler. Whoever that is, I can't say it, but Thorson's one and only touchdown pass. My brother threw him. Ask him about that play. Zakudu, what up? I gotta hop out here. Ooh, I gotta hop off in 2 minutes. This was fun though. A lot of good questions, a lot of different questions. Best food in LA? I didn't give you that. I'm gonna give all like the classic, like the Catch rooftop is sick. Like that whole menu is amazing. Um, Elefante, Wabi on Rose, sneaky great sushi, West Side. That's the best I got for you. But Victoria, what's going on? What's the best? This will be the last question, and then I got a dash. I'm going on every Tuesday and Thursday at noon. So mark it in your calendars. Every Tuesday and Thursday at noon, we'll make it happen. But the best receiver prospect you've seen since becoming an analyst? I mean, Jeremiah Smith is the easy answer, but I'll try to give you one of someone I've seen in person. Oh, in person, Roma Dunze. Roma Dunze, Washington. There was a Chicago Bears reference. Actually, let me make sure. Roma Dunze, Washington. And then what was that guy? Who was UCLA's? Gosh dang it. Who was UCLA's best receiver last year? The guy with the hyphenated last name. He's a baller. Gosh, it's going to bother me. He just transferred, I think. UCLA best receiver. Let me know if you remember it. 2024. Who was that guy? J. Michael Sturdivant. Where's he at these days? Side note, J. Michael, he was a baller, or is a baller. Where's he at now? Where did he transfer to? People know where he transferred to. Is he with Georgia? That would make sense. If he transferred to Florida. Ooh, I did not see that. J. Michael Sturdivant with Florida, with Lagway as their quarterback. Keep an eye on that. I remember, so he started at Cal, baller. The coaches were hyped on him. UCLA picked him up from the portal, and then now he's with Florida. Probably got that bag. He's physical, 6'3", 205. That's a good way to end it. Yeah, he's the guy that I look at. But this was fun. Hour's up. I'll be back next Tuesday at noon Pacific. In the meantime, creating content on all the platforms, but especially over on YouTube, creating a lot of YouTube long form videos. I just sat down literally 1 minute before I signed on here. I sat down with Jake Butt, the lead college football analyst for the Big Ten Network. I've known Jake since I was in high school. Good dude. And we talked about his career. And I'm starting to I'm going to clip up some of his thoughts. And I'm making a YouTube video on advice I'd have for people trying to get into sports broadcasting. And I'll use some of his takes. Making a video on why the best analysts are not the best players, talking in generalities there. But you look at Herb Street, you look at Joel Klatt. I've been watching a lot of golf lately. Brandel Shamley for the Golf Channel. Those guys didn't necessarily have the best playing careers. I hope that one day I'll fall into that bucket. Guy that didn't have a great playing career, all things considered, but then going up the analyst route. And then the third video is just how the sports media landscape has changed and where it's heading moving forward. So those videos are in the hopper. Check it out. And this was fun. Thanks, guys.